was perfect.
You
But,
were in case somebody didn't show up?
Then they carried you out?
No.
We'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's board meeting on this very beautiful Tuesday evening, August 18th. And we'll go ahead and get started with an invocation by Reverend Douglas Jones, followed by the pledge led by Police Chief Chris Chapman. Please rise.
From the rising of the sun to the setting of the same, your name is worthy to be praised. God, we thank you for just another day. We thank you for looking beyond our faults and still meeting us at our needs. We thank you for your grace. We thank you for your mercy. For we understand, God, we could not make it without you being in our life. God, we thank you for our officials. We ask you, God, to continue to be with them, to give them direction and give them vision for the future. God, continue to allow them to work together, for we understand that success is a partnership. We ask you to bless this city of Hot Springs, God, the community, all of the essential workers. God, we ask you to bless for those who feel that they've been left out and left behind. At the end of the day, God, we know that we cannot make it unless you're in the midst and mixed up in our situation. So we ask you, God, to have your way. Let your Holy Spirit rest, rule, and abide in our lives. Keep this city in the palm of your hand. For we understand that we have been slippery at times, but your hand has always caught us whenever we were slippery. So we thank you for being just who you are in our lives. This is our prayer today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday.
I'm here.
Director Elaine Jones. Director Jones.
You're muted.
Here.
Very good. Director Becca Clark. Here. Director Carol Weatherford.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Randy Foley.
Here.
And Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. At this time, we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda or items to be moved from consent to new business?
Mayor, if I may make a statement real quick. I just wanted to mention real quick before we get further, I need to recuse myself from item 3 of the consent agenda, which will come up here in a little bit. Just wanted to make note of that for the record.
Very good. Thank you for disclosing that. That being said, can I have a motion to approve the...
Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Yeah, motion and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. At this time, we'll consider the minutes, approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting held on August 4th, 2020. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by Director Clark, second by Director Foley. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have some very special guests tonight, and Miss Mary Zunick, Cultural Affairs Manager for Visit Hot Springs, who was recently recognized, is coming up to address the board and the community of Hot Springs.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me come here this evening. We have some great news. I work as the executive director of the Hot Springs Sister City program, and Hot Springs has been sister cities with Hanamaki, Japan, since 1993. And I know many of you have been involved and so very supportive of the Sister City program during our past during all of the experience, all the visitors we've had, and some of you have even had the opportunity to go visit Hanamaki, and thank you for your support and representation in that regard. In 2020, for our sister city activities, we've gotten off to a little bit of a rough start, as most of the rest of the world has, but 2019 was fabulous. Every year, Sister City International, that's an organization that is made up of sister cities from representing cities all over the world, presents awards for innovation, for student outreach, education, and they also present Best Overall Program Awards. And Hot Springs received this award, I think it was 2012 when we received it last, and I'm thrilled to be able to share with you this evening that we received Best Overall Program from cities all across the United States that are about the same size as ours, from Sister City International. So Best Overall Program. Thanks to the hard work of so many people in the community, educators, volunteers, just a tremendous amount of support. Everything from the Cherry Blossom Festival to hosting students. And so as part of that Sister City Award, it was presented at the annual awards ceremony or the annual conference this year. Usually a few hundred people attend that, but it was held virtually this year. So over 2,000 people from all across the United States were able to share in us receiving this award or hear all about our Hot Springs Sister City program. They asked us to put together a little highlight video of all the activities that led to us receiving the award. So I just wanted to share that with all of you this evening and to thank you for your support. And so here's a look at the award video.
Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas is a town of just over 35,000, the nation's first national land reserve, known for our thermal springs, hiking, biking, arts, and as a vacation destination. I am Mary Zunick, the director of the Hot Springs Sister City program. Our sister city, Hanamaki, Japan, is located in rural northern Japan in an area known for its natural beauty, thermal springs, and bathhouses. The connection between our two cities has thrived because city and community leaders and volunteers have dedicated themselves to fulfilling the sister city mission to promote peace through mutual respect, understanding, and cooperation. In 2019, Hot Springs Sister City events included Japanese cultural programming and activities with multiple exchanges and diverse community events. The Spring Cherry Blossom Festival featured Japanese folk dance, music, and food. Attendees were able to experience Japanese culture without ever leaving Hot Springs. The Cherry Blossom Festival also acted as a fundraiser for the Hot Springs student delegation that traveled to Hanamaki in the summer. Educational and citizen delegation exchanges take place every year, with multiple Hanamaki student groups visiting Hot Springs and local students and teacher delegations traveling to Hanamaki each summer. A citizen delegation traveled to Hanamaki for the annual Matsuri Festival in September. This delegation also visited several sake breweries and learned about sake culture and the business of brewing premium sake. The Hot Springs Sister City program partnered with an area nonprofit organization to bring a Japanese Foundation touring exhibit to Hot Springs, which showed some of the similarities and differences between modern Japanese manga and Hokusai manga. The highlight of the year was the Sister City Baseball Classic, played between local high school students and visiting players from Hanamaki on December 7th, a day that many remember as the beginning of a war. This generation will remember as a day of friendship. The game was the culmination of a week-long sports exchange between Hanamaki Higashi High School and their sister school, Lakeside High School. 20 members of the Hanamaki Higashi baseball team, consistently one of the best teams in Japan, spent 1 week in Hot Springs practicing alongside Lakeside players. While the practices, planned itinerary, activities, and baseball game were memorable, the most important result was the players learned about the bonds of friendship through a shared passion for baseball. The Hot Springs and Hanamaki sister city relationship has thrived since 1993 because there are so many in both of our cities who share an openness and desire to learn about each other's cultures, what we have in common and how we are different, and embrace each other as friends, all sharing a desire to live in a more peaceful world.
That was a look back at last year. Obviously, this year we're going to do a lot more virtual exchange than we are going to be in person, but we're looking at ways to continue the connection, the people-to-people connections, even when we can't be there physically. So, again, thank you for your support.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
That's good.
This time we have a special proclamation and presentation, and City Director Becca Clark will be presenting to Cora Jones, President of the Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce. And please proceed, Director Clark.
Whereas the year 2020 marks the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, guaranteeing and protecting women's right to vote, and whereas the centennial offers the opportunity to commemorate a milestone of democracy, that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the federal or state governments on account of sex, and whereas on June 4th, 1919, Congress passed the 19th Amendment guaranteeing all American women the right to vote, and whereas with a vote of 74 to 15 on July 28, 1919, Arkansas became the 12th state to ratify the 19th Amendment. And whereas a mom convinced her son to let women vote. To amend the U.S. Constitution, 3/4 of the state legislatures must ratify the proposed amendment. And at that time, it was 36 states. On August 18, 1920, Tennessee became the 36th state to ratify the 19th Amendment, thanks to Harry T. Byrne, a 24-year-old legislator who followed his mother's advice to be a good boy and cast the 50th vote out of a possible 99. I never knew that. And whereas on August 26, 1920, the 19th Amendment was added to the U.S. Constitution, finally guaranteeing women the right to vote. Now, therefore, Pat McCabe, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors of the City of Hot Springs, do hereby proclaim August 18, 2020 as Hot Springs Women's Right to Vote Day in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and call upon the citizens of Hot Springs to recognize the importance of every person's vote and to encourage everyone to exercise their right to vote. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed to this 18th day of August, the year of our Lord, 2020.
Mayor, if I may have a few words?
Please.
All right. 2020 is a remarkable year, not only because it's a presidential election year, and our country is in the midst of a pandemic, but it's the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment. August 1920 marked the first time the American federal government recognized the voting rights of women. Every vote really does count. So on behalf of women everywhere, I'm excited about a lot of things, and this is one of them, okay? Women everywhere and the Women's Chamber of Commerce of Hot Springs, I, Cora Jones, do accept this proclamation as read and presented today. Thank you so much for this fabulous opportunity to be here tonight. And I would like to take this moment, just a moment, to recognize the fabulous women that have come with me this afternoon. So if they will please stand. And I want them to each to say, and it won't take long, to say their names and what business they have here in Hot Springs so that you'll know how much women do in this community and how powerful these women are behind me. I'm excited. So I am Cora Jones. I am a certified pharmacy compounder, and I'm the proud owner of Cora Jones Tax Service, and I will have one opening in Little Rock, Arkansas coming this fall.
I'm Barbara Wade. I'm a retired sales executive. Jerry Mertz with Hot Springs School District.
Carrie Gage, speech language pathologist with Hot Springs School District.
Winston Fisher, General Manager of Ulta Beauty.
Jones, owner of Trent's Floor Solutions and part of Oakland Road.
On. I'm Eleanor Sherfield, and I'm an Executive Regional Vice President with Arbonne International.
Thank you for this. We're supposed to wave, yes. We learned it.
Yeah, you have to turn that way to wave.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This time we'll consider the city manager's report. Mr. Bill Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Before I get into my report, I want to just say something about Mary Zunick. I've had the privilege of being able to work with Mary and see Mary in her role as the cultural affairs manager and really what she does for the Sister City program. It's unbelievable how much she is respected in that in that country, as well as our city when it comes to our Sister City Foundation, when it comes to our Sister City organization. You are such a true ambassador of the city of Hot Springs, and we really appreciate that. Well, we've looked at the new water tank for quite some time now, but this week we actually got to put water in it. We've got about 3 million gallons in the tank. It's full. It's going through its testing. We're taking samples, getting those over to the Department of Health, and very soon we'll have that as part of the addition to our supply. We'll be coordinating we've got a couple of punch list items that they're working on, and we'll have the board and the public there for an opening very soon. But really proud of what we've been able to accomplish there with our engineers, Todd Pillar, Gary Carnahan, Monty Ledbetter. That's a lot of years of work that culminated into that tower, and really proud of that. And I've joked a few times, but it actually still stood after we filled it up, so very happy. September the 9th is a move-in date that we've got tentatively scheduled for finance, our utility billing service, and our city attorney that will be moving into the building at 324 Malvern Avenue, which is the old AP&L Entergy building. I'm really pleased at how the renovations have turned out. Again, we've taken an older building, have put it back into productive use in our downtown area, in our Malvern Gateway. So we're very proud of that. It's coming along. Again, they're over there taking care of some punch list items. I think Denny told me that they'll be completed this Friday. We still have some work to do on the parking lot, and which leads me into a segue into the paving program. The pavers will be here probably in about 2 weeks to start our second half of our paving project. The first item they'll be working on is Broadway, and then they'll be moving over to Cooper and Hobson. And we've got several other streets that we'll be taking care of at that point. But September 9th is the move-in date. We think we're going to hit that, and looking forward to that. I think you'll be very pleased with what we've been able to do with that building and getting it back into a productive use. And as we mentioned when we first started talking about that project, it's also going to open up a very large parcel of some of the best property that we have at the airport, some of the most marketable property that we have at the airport that will be coming vacant. We'll be able to get that out into the market and hopefully bring in another employer to the Hot Springs area. So very, very pleased with that. Utility billing services, as you know, several weeks ago, we had a positive COVID case with one of our employees. Actually, we ended up having 3 total, and one of those was extremely ill, and we were very concerned about her, as we are with all of our employees, but she is fully recovered. She's back to work, started back to work this week. and all of that staff came back to work on August the 7th. And I'm very proud of that crew. I mean, we learned a lot going through that process in spinning up laptops, getting things connected, getting phone systems to where we could get calls coming into our call center directly to some of those that were on quarantine but were negative. But when that happens, and you have a close environment such as what they work in, it can take out a complete department. So we've learned a lot from that particular exposure, and I just want to thank all of those staff members out there because they've all worked really hard to be able to continue to service our residents, and really thankful for the work that they're doing and what they've done. Congressman Westerman, want to thank him for his visit on August the 7th. He provided lunch for the officers at the Hot Springs Police Department and presented Chief Chapman with a congressional extension of remarks in which he said, throughout this pandemic, Hot Springs police officers have continued to put their own safety on the line, defending our streets, homes, and businesses. And that was a really wonderful afternoon and lunch with Congressman Westerman, and really appreciate him recognizing our Hot Springs Police Department and our officers. Want to say congratulations also to Officer Brandon McAdoo. He recently received the Officer of the Quarter from the Hot Springs Police Department. That's a really great program, and he is certainly well deserving. I was able to send it. I didn't make the presentation, but I was able to send an email to Officer McAdoo and let him and everyone there know how much we appreciate what they're doing for us on a daily basis. We had an e-waste event over the past weekend, and they considered it kind of a low turnout, but we had 127 vehicles that came to that particular event on Saturday. They collected 11 tons of electronics. I think that's a great success. One of the things that they asked me to remind everyone is, the solid waste department accepts e-waste every single day, Monday through Friday, from 7:30 to 4:30 at 218 Runyon. You're able to pull into the recycle center. Don't get out of your vehicles. They'll just pop the trunk. Those guys will take care of unloading it and taking care of that electronic waste. So still, I think it's a wonderful event anytime you have 127 vehicles and people taking advantage of a program that they worked hard to put on. The last thing is the Mayor's Water Challenge. Hot Springs currently ranks 27th nationwide in the Wyland National Mayor's Challenge for water conservation. So we want to continue to encourage Hot Springs residents to go online this month to mywaterpledge.com and fill out the short water conservation pledge. In 2015, Hot Springs came in second place in cities of our population across the nation. And, we've had a really wet summer the last few years, but water conservation is something that we should always be mindful about. And this is a great program to kind of bring that awareness. And Mayor, we're working on that 27th, trying to move up the
We're just giving them a head start.
And lastly, I'll remind the board that August 19th through the 21st, here in just a couple of days, we'll have the Arkansas Municipal League. It's going to be a virtual session this year. The convention begins at 1:30 on the 19th, and you should all have received a login with the password and credentials to get in. So I hope you're able to take advantage of some of that schedule. And Mayor, that concludes my report.
Very good. Thank you very much. At this time, we'll have directors' announcements of upcoming events. Directors have an upcoming event. Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I wanted to announce that event next week. Earlier today, the President made remarks in recognition of the 100-year anniversary of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. And he also issued a pardon. It took 72 years, women working to get the 19th Amendment passed. And one that worked very hard was Susan B. Anthony.
We lost her.
Come back.
Yeah.
And next week, we have absolute fabulous Garland County Library. And next week on August 26th at 6 p.m., the event will be live streamed from the library's Facebook page on facebook.com/Garland County Library for Susan B. Anthony, the woman behind the legend, and National Park College instructor and UALR Gender Studies Award winner Janice K. Percival will present a biographical presentation on Susan B. Anthony, the women's rights activist who played a pivotal role in the women's suffrage movement. And there are many other programs that the library is offering. And even if you want to check out a book or videos, you can do that with curbside pickup. You can call them or do it online. The library has fabulous resources for all of us in the community, and I thank them for this special program coming up next week at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other directors with announcements of an upcoming event? Okay, then we'll move on. We'll address the consent agenda. These are items of a routine nature that do not need individual discussion. And so at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, recognizing that Ms. Erin Holliday, Director of District 1, has recused herself on this item. Motion, please.
So moved.
Director Clark, seconded by?
Second.
Director Weatherford. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. We just have two action items this evening, and City Attorney to read Resolution R20-116 by title.
Resolution R20-116, a resolution awarding a bid to Belt Construction, Inc. for Contract 1, 48-inch raw water transmission main for the Lake Ouachita Water Supply Project. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by?
Second.
Director Clark. And our staff report will be provided by Todd Pillar. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board, and everybody watching on the TVs. We took bids on July 23rd for our first contract for our raw water pipeline, and Belt Construction of Texarkana was the low responsive bidder. It is for a 48-inch steel welded pipe, approximately 2.25 miles long. It runs from basically our intake site to the existing Ouachita water plant. And their bid was in the amount of $4,769,153. And staff is like really excited about this because it's the first one. It's going to be the first of probably 5 contracts that are on our raw water side, going from Lake Ouachita to our new water plant site. And then there'll be an additional 6 contracts probably on our finished water that'll go from the water plant site around Garland County and hit the bypass over near Carpenter Dam Road. And you'll be seeing a lot of me the next few months because all these projects are going to go concurrently. And Sunday, we advertise Contract A, which is the first contract on the finished water side, going from the water plant towards Carpenter Dam Road. But the 9 bids that we received, Belt was a low responsive bidder, and this will take care of or encumber all the rest of the 2018 water bond funds. So with that, I'll ask any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Pillar? No. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
We had no member of the audience sign up to speak on this particular issue, but I will ask if there's anyone here who would like to address this item. Hearing none, discussion amongst board members. Any discussion amongst board members? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Jones. Director Jones. Unmute. You might be
Unmute.
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Our final action item of the evening is to consider Resolution R20-117, and I would ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R20-117, a resolution authorizing exclusive negotiations for a development agreement for the former Majestic Hotel site property and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion to adopt and have a second and have discussion if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Clark. And our staff report will be provided by Deputy City Manager Lance Spicer. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, board members. It's a pleasure to be before you this evening. Obviously, this is it's taken a lot of activity, a lot of actions, not only on the board's behalf, but the citizens, community. It's to get to this point. The point that we're at is really where we've been looking to get to for some time. Back in July, we received proposals from development firms. We issued a request for proposals, and in doing so, we were wanting to have a firm that met the guiding values that the board had adopted, some additional criteria that came from some of the community input and other items. And in doing that, we received a proposal from Grand Point Investments, development team from Grand Point Investments and Sienda Partners. Grand Point is here in Hot Springs. Sienda is in Dallas, Texas, headquartered. And the development team also has multiple firms engaged in it. And the proposal that we received, we did a good bit of due diligence and review. It's a very strong proposal. As we stated previously, it does meet your guiding values and a lot of the information that came out of not only the input sessions, but also those market studies. So the proposal that we submitted, we would like to request that the board authorize the city manager and city attorney to enter into exclusive negotiations with that development firm. And the firm principals have been identified in the proposal. So this next step in the process would be the board does adopt this resolution is to begin those exclusive negotiations, and the time period on that, we expect that to run for no more than 90 days. Really, we expect to come to some type of development agreement that, if it's agreeable on both sides, to bring that particular development agreement back to the board as the city manager and city attorney are both negotiating with these firms to get to that final process. And with that, I'd entertain any questions.
There's a lot of some comments or contact I've received and postings on Facebook. When you use the term negotiation, what exactly are we negotiating?
You're negotiating the RFP submittal, the proposal that the firm put forth against the board's guiding values, and the city manager and city attorney will be operating in the city and the citizens of Hot Springs in their best interest to bring a development agreement that is something that does meet all the needs that the community and the board has put forth. So we say negotiations, obviously, they're a project this complex with this many type of proposals of land uses and things of that nature. It's going to take some back and forth, and really that's probably from an efficiency standpoint, to authorize these two city officials to enter into those discussions, negotiations.
But you'd be just negotiating certain things like perhaps being a hotel, number of rooms, number of floors, the positioning of those structures on the property. Are those the type of negotiations you would be undertaking?
From a site plan standpoint, yes, sir. Really, the site itself, it's 5 acres. There were some specific criteria that were put in that development proposal that we expect to see. A portion of it needed to have a public component that's open to the public. Really, then there was some discussion and criteria on thermal water component. Also, to have some type of something that has a tremendous impact not only on the downtown, the city, but also this region, this state, and really that's really what the proposal in itself they'll be working toward is finding something that meets those criteria and really getting to that agreement that is something that both sides can be satisfied with.
Mayor, I'd also like to add, as you know, the city has a significant investment in that property, and that's one of the things that during these discussions, we've got negotiations in the RFP, but really there's going to be a series of discussions as we move through all of the components of the RFP. And one of those is recouping a little over $2 million that the city has invested in that particular site and encumbered against our solid waste fees. So we want to be able to make sure that we recoup those over this term that we have with this particular company. Again, as Lance mentioned, we hope to have this coming back to the board relatively soon for at least a first pass to present. But we do have a 90-day window in the basically a shot clock of 90 days in the RFP. If we can't come to a mutual agreement, then it will provide the board to direct staff to continue to work with this group or to move forward with an additional RFP.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Spicer from other directors? Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, Director Garcia.
I'm sorry. I wanted to ask that although the people identified to negotiate are the city manager and our city attorney. However, does it exclude if either one of them want to bring in someone else from the staff, the deputy manager or the city engineer or purchasing manager or whomever you would like at the table? It doesn't prevent you from doing that, does it?
It does not.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from directors? Hearing none, thank you. We do have an individual who has signed up to speak on this issue. Mr. Lauren Impson, please come forward and restate your name and address and district, please.
Sure. My name is Lauren Impson, and my address is 102 Cocoa Bay Point. And I'm not sure about the district. I think someone told me 5. I'm not familiar with the proposal that you guys are going to be working on or the group that you're going to be doing. I've been involved with the pools project for a long time, trying to see that there were outdoor pools here in Hot Springs. We've done a bunch of studies on it. It's going to be profitable. We've had public hearings on it, and that was the most popular use of it. If there is a hotel put on the property, it would seem like we would want to work with the hotel to do some sort of public pools, and I heard the statement that there is going to be some accommodation for public use there. I guess my question is, what is that going to be, and how are we going to participate in that happening? So that's it.
Yeah, there was some frontage area that was going to be public purpose that would have some water features, and I'm not sure to what degree they would be expanded to actual pool use, But those are all the aspects of the negotiation process.
Okay.
And
How would the public participate in that? I mean, we had the RFPs, and in the request for proposals, the outdoor pools was the most popular concept.
yeah. I'll yield to the city manager, but I would believe that your contact is going to be Mr. Burrows and Mr. Albright
Okay.
as to that aspect of the project.
Thank you.
Well, you know, and I want to refer back to the RFP. It was open to any type of project that met those four guiding values. And I understand there are a significant number of people that would like to see just open pools there. However, we did not receive any firm that was willing to do that.
Right.
This RFP that we received, it's about a $110 million project. It does include hotels, living quarters as well. There's some condominiums on the site. There are hot water pools. There are cold water pools. There are waterfalls. There is about an acre on the front of that project that would be for public use in its public park type setting with, I believe there was a splash pad. And those are things that are still conceptual. I'm sure we'll be having a lot of those kind of conversations on what that looks like at the end of the day. Another thing I think it's very important that people keep in mind is the city of Hot Springs does not have any hot water. You know, that is something that whomever ends up having a development on that property, they will have to have those conversations with the National Park Service.
Right.
So, you know, those will all be part of that negotiation. But, you know, it's very difficult to negotiate a pool setting when there's no one there that's willing to build them.
True. I understand that part. But it would seem like you could have the public involved in how those pools are going to be presented to the public, or how you're going to access those pools. If they're going to have a private facility there, they're going to be buying this property from the city, and the citizens have stated they want to have some access to that. Then it would seem like the citizens should have some input into how that happens.
Well, and I saw some drawings that were moving around that had that, but again, you know, and I recommended to those that have showed it to me, put together a firm or a group of firms that are willing to come in and make that kind of investment. Right. It's very difficult, you know, and I understand what you're saying, but when you have a development team that's willing to take the risk and put $110 million on the line, it's very difficult to tell them how they're going to spend that. Now, those are the things that we'll be discussing and trying to massage and maneuver and working towards a vision to where we can see some type of a pool setting. But again, you know, we're way premature from that point. This is just allowing us to get at the table with them and actually start digging into the proposal that they submitted. And we've got the guiding values that this board has set. The RFP was built around that. We've got the market studies. We've got the information from when we had open meetings over at the convention center. We have all that information, and all of that will be taken in consideration as we sit at that table and start having these kind of conversations. But there certainly has to be a certain return on investment for a developer that's willing to come in and place that kind of investment in the city of Hot Springs. So all of that will be, you know, part of those discussions and what we consider as we move forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak on this item?
Mayor, I did receive some emails.
I'm sorry.
I did receive some emails if you'd like for me to read those. I have 7 of them that came in today.
Please.
The first one says, I would like to voice my support of moving forward and allowing the city manager and city attorney to negotiate in good faith and exclusively with the company selected through the RFP process. I attended the community meetings. I viewed the proposed use of the site. I feel it is time to move forward. It has been a slow process since the burning of the old Majestic, and Lance Spicer, Brian Albright, and Bill Burrow in their respective roles are to be commended for the acquisition, demolition, and clearing of the site. I look forward to the new jewel that will be replaced where the old grand building sat, Renee Westfall. Another email came from Leslie Fisher. I'm a strong supporter of using the Majestic property to create outdoor thermal pools in a natural setting. So often visitors come here and ask, where are the hot springs? I believe outdoor thermal pools would be such an attractive and popular addition to our city. The water is our most treasured natural resource. I think it should be prominently showcased. The next one reads, residents of Hot Springs will greatly benefit from a public outdoor thermal water access at the Majestic site, as well as many guests of our city. The design workshop study shows that an outdoor thermal water complex is a viable option. Please consider during the planning with the developer of the site to have outdoor thermal water access to the public. This is an opportunity to improve the livability and amenities for the residents and the community. Thank you, Brianna Moore. Next email reads, to whom it may concern, I am a Hot Springs resident, District 1. I am writing to voice my support for outdoor public thermal pools. Having moved here last fall, I've always wondered why this wasn't available. I was born in Colorado, which has an outdoor public hot springs pools, and it's amazing. Not to mention an important resource to draw tourists and residents alike. Thermal pools would be a total boon to Hot Springs. I also wanted to say that the picture I saw of the adjacent proposed hotel seems ridiculously out of proportion to both the site, the town, and the entire atmosphere of Hot Springs. It is like Vegas got set down on reality quaint corner. Please don't. Sincerely yours, Jasmine Moorhead. The next email reads, I am writing in support of negotiations that result in a project that follows the feasibility study and public input that has been garnered so far, such as the popular wish for public access to outdoor thermal pools in residential housing. The project should prioritize the quality of life of the community as well as serving as an economic driver. The Majestic should not just be a highly quality destination, it should elevate the quality of life for the people who live directly around it, our downtown corridor and surrounding neighborhoods. Thank you, Angie Ezekiel, President of the Park Avenue Community Association. The next email is from Richard Sheeran. I spent hours every day walking in Hot Springs National Park, and without exception, all tourists who ask, where can I see the hot water? Tourists and residents want free access to thermal pools. Our taxes are paying for it. I quit speaking to tourists during the pandemic as my mother, 89, is confined to a small apartment 5 months due to general indifference, and Gail is home with underlying conditions as well, while civic and political leaders of the city of Hot Springs and Visit Hot Springs invite, pay, and publicly welcome Major League Baseball Hall of Famers. Citizens demand leadership to prioritize fiduciary responsibility over personal financial liability. And the last email I received reads, I would like you all to consider voting against exclusive negotiations for a high-end hotel at the Majestic site. The design workshop study shows that a thermal water complex is viable and what residents want. When I worked at the Quapaw Bath and Spa, I was asked by visitors literally every day where they could find outdoor hot springs. I still get this question from guests at the Airbnb we manage and from friends considering a visit to Arkansas. An outdoor thermal bathing complex has tremendous appeal, especially with the changes COVID-19 has made to tourism. People want to be outside. Building a hotel while sites like the Velda Rose in Arlington and the Springs Hotel continue to degrade is a slap in the face to residents who work tirelessly to make this town a pleasant place to live. Just 2 bathhouses have a monopoly on bathing in the waters that have drawn visitors here for centuries. We can do better with this tremendous resource. Signed, Vanessa Tomachek. Thank you.
You're good. Thank you very much. Again, anyone else to speak on this issue? Discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
This is Randy.
Yes.
Mayor, this is Randy Foley. I would like to congratulate Bill and Brian and Lance Spicer on bringing this project as far as it is. They had projects before that really didn't meet the conditions of the request for proposal, and they stood their ground. And I think we're going to get a good project out of this because of their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any further?
Mayor, if I may, I'm sorry.
Director Holiday.
Yes, hi there. Well, one, I just want to thank everybody who took the time to reach out to the city clerk, but also Mr. Empson for coming in. This is something that I hear a lot about. I know everyone else does, but it being in my district and quite frankly at the end of my street, it's something that's really important to me personally, and it's a topic of conversation almost weekly. So I just want to say that I'm looking forward to seeing what the results of these negotiations are. I do have high hopes and expectations that our staff will advocate on behalf of our residents and on behalf of the future of our city. And I appreciate that we did our market study before with the development partners, and I do believe that I would be remiss if I didn't echo what I hear over and over and over again with thermal pools that you guys heard here. But City Manager Burrow, I also completely understand that this is going to be a balancing act. I don't envy the two of you going into these negotiations, because there are a lot of ideas out there. But I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I have faith in you guys that this is going to go well, and Lance as well. And I know that you guys have been listening, and I know the city's been listening to our residents. And so I expect the result to be to that end. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other comments from directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. That concludes the action items for tonight's meeting. At this time, we'll consider Board of Directors items for discussion. Any director have an item for discussion? Hearing none. Director Jones, are you there?
Yes, I am, Mayor. I've been waiting on you. I move that we adjourn the meeting for tonight.
Okay.
Don't forget to wash your hands.
And wash your hands. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Director Weatherford. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, and it's getting dark out there, so drive safely on your way home.